YouTubers, it is referee Rob Jackson back with another video. So this one is another video by 20-minute promo. As you saw, the last one we did was really damn good. It was when Jeff Hardy versus CM Punk got real. This one caught my interest because this one is how the streak destroyed DX. Yes, it did. And man, oh man, let's get into it.
Wasn't supposed to be the beginning of a 4-year story. It was just supposed to be another Undertaker WrestleMania match, but instead, it became the story of two best friends slowly destroying themselves, trying to conquer something that nobody could beat. Because once Shawn Michaels failed to conquer The Undertaker at WrestleMania, he couldn't let it go. And eventually, Triple H couldn't either. For 4 straight years, WrestleMania stopped being about championships, rivalries, or glory. It became about obsession, pride, ego, and legacy. By the end of it, the streak didn't just survive DX, it destroyed them. The thing that's so great about this story is it never just was about 4 matches. It was one long story about obsession. Shawn Michaels lost himself trying to conquer The Undertaker. Triple H watched it happen, believed he was stronger, tried to do it himself,
and couldn't.
In the end that he isn't. WrestleMania 25, it truly changed everything. Now, what's so unique about this match compared to the rest in this saga is it really didn't start off as anything that was treated as much of importance. It was a streak match with The Undertaker, and that was kind of the baseline. The whole reason Shawn Michaels even got this opportunity at The Undertaker was he won basically a #1 contenders match against Vladimir Kozlov. It was a match to see who would face The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Yeah. Vladimir Kozlov. I know, shocking. At one point, they wanted to build him as the next big thing. And I find it funny because in 2013, CM Punk won a Fatal 4-Way to challenge The Undertaker at WrestleMania. I remember people at the time were like, that's so stupid. You shouldn't have a #1 contenders match for the streak. I agree. But the greatest streak match, arguably, of all time spawned because of one of these matches. So, get your lore right. But the story...
Yep. And honestly, like, Vladimir Kozlov had a lot of potential. He had so much potential. Like, I feel like WWE, they used him wrong. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm glad that they gave him the opportunity, and he was a monster heel. But, and he, I'm not gonna lie, he was good in the shtick segments, the funny shtick segments with Santino Marella and Sheamus and whatnot. But, like, I feel like they could have done so much more with Kozlov. They could have legit, like, there was so much potential there. Hey, it is what it is, though.
The story of this match was simple. It was Shawn Michaels he wanted to conquer the streak. He had done everything else. He had main evented WrestleMania, won Royal Rumbles, been the world champion, been to the top of the mountain over and over and over again. But the one thing that he could never do was beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And at this point, Shawn Michaels knows his career's wrapping up, and he doesn't believe that he can end his career until he accomplishes this one thing that he could never do. After all, Shawn Michaels was Mr. WrestleMania, and the year before, he retired the legendary Ric Flair. And now he had his...
We don't talk about the TNA days. He was drunk. He didn't know what he was doing. He loves us. That was the Ric Flair going to TNA and wrestling there. Yeah. And then having his other wrestling match, his last wrestling
on
match.
The Undertaker. And ultimately, this was a match of respect. Two legends who had been to war with each other over the years.
Men don't doom scroll, masturbate, drink, and smoke because they're lazy. They do it because their overstimulated brain...
But the interesting statistic about the fact that they had been to war all this time is The Undertaker could never defeat Shawn Michaels. Bad Blood 97, Kane got involved, Shawn Michaels escaped. Same thing happened at the Royal Rumble in 1998. The Undertaker was never able to beat Shawn Michaels. And that added just a smidge of doubt. It may be WrestleMania, it may be the streak. But does Shawn Michaels have The Undertaker's number? Shawn Michaels was just obsessed with proving he's the best performer ever. And it didn't matter if it was WrestleMania. He was going to defeat The Undertaker. And what made this match so interesting is going in, it really wasn't treated as big as maybe people think it was, just by how big it is in retrospect.
Yep.
But Undertaker even asked, like, what spot are we going on WrestleMania? And Michael Hayes says 5th, 5, mid-card. Now, this show had a lot of big angles on it, and blood feuds. You had Triple H and Randy Orton in the main event in a blood feud. You had Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy, brother versus brother, in this blood feud.
That was a good
John
one.
Cena, although they had Big Show in it, that rivalry had become sacred in modern wrestling. And that was taking place at WrestleMania. There were all these big things going on, and The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels just kind of fell through the cracks a little bit. It's just like, it's a match on the card. And when Undertaker heard that, he said, oh, this just got real. And at that point, they decided, okay, you're going to put us in mid-card, eh? You're going to regret that. And I think they
stole the show.
The presentation was fantastic. With Shawn Michaels coming down in white from the heavens, Undertaker rising from the darkness in all black. The symbolism was so easy to pick up, good versus evil. Just so easy to buy into that. And it really didn't take
Light
long
versus
before
darkness,
this match
yeah.
turned desperate and violent and just beautiful. This match just had so much urgency. You could feel the desperation in every move that Shawn Michaels made, that he needed to conquer The Undertaker, and that he felt that he had The Undertaker's number. But The Undertaker at WrestleMania was almost supernatural. Like, he just could not be stopped. But Shawn Michaels knew The Undertaker so well. He knew all his moves. He knew all his tricks. And he was there for everything. And you bought into everything. This was the match that really brought that heavy kick-out culture to wrestling. And I feel like both of them are probably like, we may have poisoned the well a little bit. Because here's the thing. Nowadays, you have finisher kickouts constantly, and nobody buys into them. If you're watching a big pay-per-view match and you see Roman hit a spear, and it's the first spear of the match, you know it's going to be a kick-out. Same thing with Cena with the attitude adjustment, Cody with the crossroads, whatever it might be. You don't buy into that first finisher. This match, you bought in to every finisher, and that made every kick-out feel impactful. We don't get that anymore.
That's because now in today's wrestling culture, everyone is using finisher after finisher after finisher, and finishers are being turned into normal moves. I mean, technically they are normal moves if you really think about it, because, you know, the leg drop was a finisher for goodness knows how long. The DDT was a finisher until it became a normal move. What happened to protecting the moves? What happened to protecting the moves within the business? This is one of the reasons as to why, like, if I make a finisher, I'm not using it until it is the finish. Like, a finisher should be used in the finish, or a finishing submission maneuver should be used in the finish. Like, that should be what counts, what gets the shoulders counted. Like, that's just how it is. That's just how it is. The finishers and submission maneuvers need to be protected. Like, excuse me, you don't just use one finisher and then another. You have to protect the business, protect the finishers, and use them once you are going to end the match. Like, you should not use it unless you know that is what you're using to win the match, or what you're using to lose the match, but to have your opponent reverse and win. Like, or yeah, use it to win or attempt to win. But you keep it there, and that's it. That's how you protect it. Like, you have to protect your finishers. You guys, like, anybody, like, because, like, yeah, if you go to different matches, you'll see finisher after pin, or finisher, pinfall, finisher, pinfall, finisher, pinfall, submission, pinfall, submission, or sorry, submission, reversal, submission, reversal. But that's not protecting you as a character and your move set. That's burying it. Like, you got to start protecting your finishers. You got to start protecting your submissions. It's part of the psychology. The only time you should really be busting out any finishers like that is a high stakes situation like that. What do I have to do to put him down? Like, and it shouldn't be done a lot either, but if ever, that is a situation where it's like, all right, what do I have to do? Because this, my usual is not working, my usual finisher is not working, my usual submission is not working. Now I have to bust out the other moves. That's what makes it more valuable, and that's what makes it more rare, and that's what gives it a bigger feeling.
Not like this. Yeah, you could be in this match for a lot of that culture. but it didn't resonate the same way this one did.
Exactly.
You didn't buy into those near falls.
It's because everything was protected.
You did in this one. Every Sweet Chin music, Tombstone, Last Ride felt meaningful. And of course, you have the infamous spot where the Undertaker goes to do his
the suicide dive,
over
yeah.
the top ropes. Shawn
And then
Michaels
Rosie
pulls
barely
the
catches
cameraman
him.
to catch him. The cameraman does not catch him, and the Undertaker lands directly on his head. Scary, scary spot. But even those botches add to the mystique of this match. And we get one of the best near falls I've ever seen in a match. Undertaker hits the tombstone. Shawn Michaels kicks out. JR makes the legendary call. And Undertaker, the look on his face as JR yells, "I just had an out-of-body experience." The shock,
Yep.
the horror on his face, like, what do I have to do to put this man away? And in the end,
that's
all it
what I was
took
saying.
was one mistake from Shawn Michaels, and it cost him.
What do I have to
everything.
do to put this man
He
away?
went for the moonsault. Undertaker caught him in midair. Tombstone, 1, 2, 3. The streak lives.
That's what I was talking about. When it comes to all kinds of finishing maneuvers, even those, if you're going to use those who have been popularized by others, you don't bust them out unless it's a dire situation of what do I have to do to end or win this match. Hey, shout out to my boy, referee Marty Elias. Love you, brother. If you're watching this, keep kicking ass, man. And if you've retired by this point, please don't. Please continue reffing, man. Please. Please, we love you, brother. Thank you for everything you've done for the refs. Thank you for paving the way for refs like us, man.
17-0. Shawn Michaels is vanquished. Now, you hear a lot of, like, newer wrestling fans talk about, oh, this match is underrated or overrated. Look, wrestling at the end of the day is about storytelling. And what made this match so special is the connection that we had to the story, to the characters, to everything that led
We
up
felt
to this moment.
everything.
From the Royal Rumble 2007, where they had that classic last 15 minutes, to the legendary clashes they had in the late 90s. The fact that they were two of the final representations of a dying breed going at it one more time at WrestleMania. All of that is what made this special. If you started watching wrestling after the streak was broken, you're going to have a different relationship with this match, with this story, with everything than you would if you grew up watching it. You're not able to judge it fairly through the same eyes of the storytelling they were delivering, because it was all based on things that we had lived and experienced. If you're not a part of that journey and you haven't taken the time to like, if you watch your very first Marvel movie and it's Endgame, it's not going to hit the same as if somebody who started watching with Iron Man in 2008 and watched everything. If you've been on that ride, that story is going to mean something different to you.
That is true. The funny thing is, at the time when Marvel actually started, like really started the MC universe, like the movies that were made prior to Iron Man in 2008, all of them were still considered canon in the universe, in the MC universe, or in the MCU. All of those movies, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, Edward Norton's Incredible Hulk. I think he was the 2002 Hulk, wasn't he? Because there was Mark Ruffalo, Edward Norton, and someone else. There was a Hulk in 2000, Hulk in 2002 or 2004, and then there were like 3 Incredible Hulks. So, like, they were all still canon in the MCU until The Amazing Spider-Man got brought in, but then everyone shot on that, and those movies weren't appreciated as much. And then Tom Holland's Spider-Man came in, and it's like, all right, this is the canon Spider-Man, and then these two are canon, but not in this universe. Like, they're parallel. Well, now they're technically canon in the MCU because there's string theory, you know, the multiverse. There's the multiverse, but yeah, sorry, I just went on a tirade there.
It's no different than some of the matches that you watch nowadays that you're connected to.
Yep.
So next time you go to call something overrated, try and understand that maybe you just aren't as connected with it. And that's okay. That's okay. You weren't on that ride.
And mind you, we're
can't
still
watch it the same
7
way.
minutes
But this
into
is one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. I would even argue and say it is the greatest WrestleMania match of all time. I think it's that good. And I think what made it so good was that the expectations were where they were. They weren't high. This was like I said, a mid-card match surrounded by these other matches that had way stronger builds and feuds and stories.
And they ended up
This one
stealing
was
the
simple,
fucking show.
But it was effective, and it stole WrestleMania. But Shawn Michaels, in the end, he couldn't do it, and he had to step away. The Undertaker stepped away for injury reasons, and he had to take some time off. Both.
So the funny thing about that is that Shawn stepped away because he was like, you know what? That could have been it. Like, I feel like that could have been it. Like, the match before he retired. And my favorite matches, my two favorite matches on that card were Jeff versus Matt and Taker versus Michaels. Because Jeff versus Matt, I was a huge Hardy mark for both. But Jeff was bigger than Obama at that time and in 2008. And man, like, I'm saying, dude.
Both guys ended up returning in the summer of 2009. Shawn Michaels was finally coaxed to come back to team with Triple H against Legacy, but the streak had mentally defeated him. It took a lot of convincing to get him to come back. And in that time, The Undertaker would come back and he would defeat CM Punk, and it would be his final reign with the World Heavyweight Championship. But even though Shawn Michaels came back for this DX run, this almost like nostalgia run, he realized that being Mr. WrestleMania isn't enough anymore. He needs to beat The Undertaker. This is where the obsession began. Shawn Michaels just couldn't move on. And eventually, it came to fruition at the Slammy Awards in 2009, where Match of the Year was named, and obviously, I don't know what would have even came close. The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels win. Shawn Michaels comes out to accept the award, and he looks down at his award, and he starts thinking. He starts thinking about WrestleMania. He starts thinking about how close he came, how one mistake is all it took, and he lost. And he called his shot. He said, you know what, Undertaker, I can beat you. You and me, WrestleMania, one more time. And it's funny
throwing out
because
the challenge.
Storyline plan here was not for this to happen. This was a late call. It's not like this was always this pre-planned long-term story. It was a pitch that was never really went anywhere, and then this night they finally decided, let's do it. Because the plan, or at least the rough plan, was for Undertaker
It was like
to
raining
face
out.
Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania 26. The plan was to try and build the future, which is they had Sheamus and Drew McIntyre come up to the main roster that year, and the plan was Triple H was going to work Sheamus, Drew McIntyre was going to work The Undertaker. And
I
it was gonna
kinda like that,
establish
actually.
next big things. But this changed that, and for the better, for sure. But it wasn't going to be that easy for Shawn Michaels, because even though he made the challenge, The Undertaker told him no. What does he have to gain?
My
by accepting
answer
this? He already beat Shawn
is
Michaels.
no.
What does he have to prove at this point to him? And on top of that, he's the World Heavyweight Champion. You can't just call your shot at WrestleMania against the champion. It's not how it works. So Shawn Michaels knew there was only one way he was going to get The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
The Royal
and that
Rumble.
was winning the Royal Rumble. And he became consumed and obsessed with it. And at the time, he's with DX, and they're the tag team champions. But the obsession has got so in his head that he can't focus. And it ends up costing them the titles against The Miz and Big Show. And Triple H is like, dude, get your head in the game. But Shawn Michaels doesn't want to hear it. He is so focused on The Undertaker that it cost his relationship with Triple H. He was spiraling mentally, and this would lead to the Royal Rumble, where Shawn had a hell of performance. He even eliminated Triple H. But in the end, he came so close. He super kicked Edge from the outside of the ring over the top, and he was on the apron, but Batista came from behind and swiped his hands off the ropes, and Shawn lost his balance. He struggled. He reached for the ropes. He tried his hardest, but he couldn't grab on, and he fell to the floor, and he was eliminated. At this point, Shawn snapped. He started super kicking referees.
Poor Charles Robinson.
He failed. WrestleMania, The Undertaker, everything.
It got stuck in the branch that it was growing on, and then
It was gone. The Undertaker was having a good night, though. He retained his World Heavyweight title against Rey Mysterio, and now he was heading into the Elimination Chamber, where there was one more stop for him to take that world title across the finish line and make it to WrestleMania. But Shawn Michaels knew that the only way that he was going to get The Undertaker now at WrestleMania is if The Undertaker was no longer the champion. So he snuck his way inside the chamber underneath. He waited till the very end. He came up through the grates, and he hit The Undertaker with the sweet chin music. Chris Jericho got the pin. Chris Jericho's now the World Heavyweight Champion. And Shawn Michaels now has another path to The Undertaker. He gave The Undertaker
That was a smart move,
reason
too.
to want
That was a clever way they
revenge.
did it.
And Undertaker said, finally, okay, you want this match that badly? Then you're going to have to put something on the line. If I'm putting the streak on the line, you're going to put your career on the line. Now we have the flip from
If I
WrestleMania
can't beat you,
24.
I don't have a
Flair put his
career.
on the
You're
line
on.
against Shawn Michaels. Now Shawn Michaels is forced to put his career on the line against The Undertaker. And Shawn Michaels tells him, if I can't beat you at WrestleMania, I have no career. Because he could not ride off into the sunset until he accomplished the one thing he felt that he could not do in his career, and that's defeat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. He needed this. Triple H warned him, you're losing yourself, and he was. He was obsessed. It had driven him to madness. He needed this match with The Undertaker, and he risked everything to get it. And this
Including
match ended
DX,
up
yep.
becoming the main event of WrestleMania 26. And I think for a lot of people, you'll ask them which of the two Shawn Michaels Undertaker matches they prefer. They're going to tell you the first one, and I would as well. But I think a big part of that was because the first one was so exceeding expectations, because expectations were never that high. We knew it was going to be a good match, but like we didn't have these insane expectations of what this was going to become. But at WrestleMania
In terms of
26,
storytelling,
you had all
it's
the
WrestleMania
anticipation
26,
because
yep.
of how great last year was. You had this huge story that went on for months building to this match, and you had the ultimate stakes of the career versus
excuse me.
and you have the main event now
Yep.
of WrestleMania. So I think no matter how good this match was going to be, it was never going to exceed the expectations that we all set for it. So it was never going to be as good as the first one. And it didn't need to be. It was great, and it was perfect for what it was. It did not need to be a better match than 25. But I think it was a better story going in, and I think it was more emotional. You know, Shawn Michaels threw absolutely everything he had against The Undertaker. Everything. Every sweet chin music, every bit of heart and passion and ability that he had, he threw at The Undertaker. But The Undertaker at WrestleMania is just immortal at this point. Nothing could stop him. It was like fighting the Terminator. Moonsaults through the announce table, sweet chin music out of nowhere. He hit him with everything. But The Undertaker kept going. The Undertaker even hit Shawn with a tombstone on the floor. But Shawn Michaels, he wouldn't quit either. His body was giving up, but his heart never would. And at the end, he kicked out of a tombstone, and The Undertaker looked down at Shawn Michaels like, dude, just stop. I don't want to kill you. He looked down at him with mercy as Shawn Michaels, barely hanging on, crawled up The Undertaker's body, forced his way to his feet, and he looked up at him and he said, if you're going to put me down, you better do it. And he slaps The Undertaker across the face. And now his facial expression changes. He goes from mercy to rage. And he picks Shawn
Mercy to
Michaels
wrath.
up, and he delivers one of the most brutal jumping tombstone pile drivers you're ever going to see. 1, 2, 3. The streak lives, and Shawn Michaels' career dies. 18-0. The streak destroyed Shawn Michaels psychologically, emotionally, and now it ended his career. He sacrificed everything, chasing something impossible. And for a while, Triple H thought he was weak for that. And at WrestleMania 27, Triple H came out and challenged The Undertaker.
Not
And this
even
was his
a
opportunity
word
to not
was said
only
between the
avenge
two.
Shawn, avenge
And it was
his
perfect.
best friend that failed, but also to prove that he could do what Shawn couldn't do. That he felt Shawn, he lacked the killer instinct that was needed to beat The Undertaker. He felt he could do what Shawn couldn't do, and it's not like Triple H had never been there before. 10 years prior at WrestleMania 17, he challenged The Undertaker and he lost. He knew what it was like to face Undertaker on that stage. But throughout their entire career, Triple
They've
H always
evolved.
had that ego of feeling like he was better than Shawn, of feeling like he had that killer instinct that Shawn never did, that Shawn, his weakness was his emotions. Triple H could strip all that away and just be a killer. And he knew that's what it was going to take to beat The Undertaker. And he had to prove to himself and to Shawn that he could do what Shawn couldn't do. He had to prove that he was better. His ego was forcing him to. And at the same time, avenging his best friend's career. But
Yep.
I'm sure he also contained a lot of resentment because Shawn threw away everything they had as a team, including his career for this. It threw everything into a tailspin for Triple H. All of this going in. And it's funny because this match was not originally planned at WrestleMania. Just like the year before, Shawn and Undertaker wasn't originally planned. If you remember, in the summer to fall of 2010, The Undertaker and Kane were having a feud over the World Heavyweight Championship, and Bragging Rights 2010, they had a Buried Alive match. And the Nexus came out, and they attacked The Undertaker and cost him the match. And the reason they did this was because the original plan was for The Undertaker
To
and
face Wade Barrett,
as
yep.
the leader of the Nexus to face off at WrestleMania 27. Thankfully, that didn't happen. No offense to Wade Barrett. I don't know if the company just lost faith in him or Nexus or whatever, but I'm so glad that we got this story instead. And they didn't even need promos or words or anything extreme to build
They
this.
just
The
did their
story was
entrances,
already there.
stared
It
each
was
other
on
down,
tour. In fact,
did their
when Undertaker made
taunts.
his return to TV in February of 2011,
And then walked
Triple
out.
H returned right after. They didn't need to say a word to each other. They stared
They
each other
stared at the
down,
WrestleMania
looked
sign.
up at the WrestleMania sign, and then back at each other. And everything that you needed to know was told to you in that moment without a single word of dialogue. The story was so simple. I can do what Shawn couldn't do. Triple H believed emotion is what made Shawn Michaels fail, and he believed that brutality is what would succeed. And
Yep.
this match, man, I loved this match. In fact, and this might be
The only
bold,
two
but I
good
don't
matches on the
care. When it comes to
WrestleMania card
rating
on
these four
WrestleMania
matches,
27
For one, I would rate this match
was
between
Undertaker,
Triple H,
Triple H,
WrestleMania 27,
and CM Punk,
actually
Randy Orton.
over the Hell in a Cell match the year prior. And I actually slightly enjoyed it more than Shawn and Undertaker.
The year prior, you
the year
mean
before in
the year
26.
after?
Just as a match, I actually enjoyed it more. Not more than 25, but just as a match, I enjoyed it more than 26. Even though it didn't have the emotion, I loved the angle they went about with it. It was brutal. It was so different. Triple H was just, I'm going to keep stacking offense until the streak breaks. Because The Undertaker may be immortal at WrestleMania, but if I just keep hitting him with offense over and over and over again, eventually he is going to break. It was a great strategy. And it was a great idea. This match was less emotion, but it was way more violent and brutal, especially for PG 2011 WWE. They even
Oh,
had a
yeah.
chair shot to
Oh,
the
yeah.
head, which they got fined for. But this match was really just Triple H beating the hell out of The Undertaker. Spine buster through the table, pedigrees. He even hit him with a tombstone pile driver, his own move, and nothing was working. And The Undertaker's body was giving up. He was barely able to fight, but he survived. He kept surviving. And in the end, Triple H had the sledgehammer, and The Undertaker pulled out his ace, his
The Hell's
trick,
Gate.
his last clutch move, the Hell's Gate, what he pulls out in desperate times, and he was able to get Triple H to drop the hammer and tap out.
Wait, how old is the new hire?
I don't know, but he literally uses Excel.
Yeah, fuck this AI slop.
Undertaker survives, but he did not win the war. Triple H left on his own 2 feet. The Undertaker had to be carried out. This was the first time the streak really looked vulnerable. And what I loved about this dynamic is from going from WrestleMania 25 to 26, it was Shawn Michaels who was so desperate and obsessed with getting that match with The Undertaker. But from 27 to 28, it was The Undertaker who was obsessed with getting Triple H. Obsessed. Because he may not have beaten the streak, but The Undertaker didn't feel like he won. He felt like for the first time at WrestleMania, to him, even if he didn't have his shoulders pinned to the mat, felt like a loss. Felt like something he needed to avenge.
Yep.
And going into WrestleMania 28, the dynamic was different because Triple H is no longer just a regular full-time competitor. Now he's the COO. He had had some matches in 2011, but he was more on the corporate side now. And The Undertaker threw out the challenge. Originally, Triple H said no, but Undertaker just kept coming and coming. He shaved his head. He was begging, essentially. And Triple H finally gave in, but if we're gonna do it, it's gonna be inside
Hell in a Cell.
And not only are we getting these two inside Hell in a Cell, but this match is gonna have a special guest referee. And of course, it's none other than the man who started it all,
Shawn Michaels.
And it's so fitting that it's inside Hell in a Cell, where really the feud between Shawn Michaels and Undertaker began in this immortal
And now, in a way, it
that
ends.
where it became this iconic thing. The first ever Hell in a Cell was Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. And in Shawn Michaels' corner at the time was Triple H. It was all coming full circle. Hell in a Cell is where DX triumphed over The Undertaker in 1997 with the help of Kane, but can they do it again at WrestleMania? And it wasn't Shawn Michaels coming into this as a special guest referee to screw The Undertaker. He had mixed feelings because on one hand, Triple H is his best friend, and through Triple H, he can finally get closure on the streak. He can be the one that counts the 3 on The Undertaker and feel like even though he wasn't personally responsible, he can, in a way, beat the streak and hang his hat on that through Triple H. But on the other hand, he doesn't want Triple H to do what he couldn't do, what he failed to do. He almost had a form of resentment to the fact that Triple H could accomplish what he failed to do, what cost him everything. So he was really more impartial than even realize. And Shawn and Triple H were constantly arguing because Shawn believed that Triple H had become just as obsessed as he was.
So the funny thing about this is that I can't remember who I was watching this with. I think I was watching it here. I don't remember who I was watching it with because this is when I was in high school. It was WrestleMania 28, and I was watching it here, but Cody actually got to attend WrestleMania. This was my... Oh, man. This was the end of my sophomore year. And I think it was in this summer. But yeah, Cody actually got to attend this WrestleMania, and I can't remember... what was it? Like... Oh, man, I can't remember who I watched it with, but, man, like, watching this was wild. And there were three aspects to why this is my favorite match in the entire saga of DX and Undertaker / Brothers of Destruction. We're not going to count Crown Jewel or whatever the fucking Saudi Arabia show was, but this was my favorite one because of three aspects. Number one, the aspect of having The Undertaker versus Triple H with Shawn Michaels as the special guest referee. Full circle, as he was talking about. Number two, Hell in a Cell, end of an era, and the cell gets an entrance of its own. And number three was the music of that entrance was the same music they used for the promo of Undertaker versus Triple H at WrestleMania 28, was Metallica's The Memory Remains. And it was perfect. Perfect. Everything down to the last minute details.
Everything Triple H judged him for being, now Triple H had become that person. But Triple H did not want to admit it. And Shawn was honest with him and told him, like, you're not gonna beat him. I know what it's like. I gave everything, and I couldn't. He can't be beaten. He looks at Triple H, sees himself, and says, dude, you're making all the same mistakes that I made. But Triple H's mindset is, I'm gonna do what you couldn't do because I'm stronger than you, better than you, and it may be a friendly, competitive feeling, but those are feelings that have always been there between the two since their first feud in 2002. And before that. And the Hell in a Cell represented all 4 years finally closing in. At this point, the feud, the violence had escalated beyond the point of a standard wrestling match. It had to be in Hell in a Cell. And this match was incredible. Now, I would say for me, of the four, it's probably my least favorite, and then they're all incredible matches. So to say that is not discrediting the match at all. I just like the other three.
My favorite in terms of wrestling was 25. My favorite in terms of the story itself was 28.
There were some moments in this match that I genuinely, in the moment, believed, holy shit.
Patients around the world are cleaning their retainers wrong. Here are the 3 worst ways to clean your retainer. 1. Brushing.
The streak is over. When Shawn Michaels hit the Sweet Chin music and Triple H hit the pedigree right after, it was one of the best near falls I've ever seen, and I think a lot of us watching that were like, holy shit, they're about to do it. And The Undertaker kicked out. It's like, oh my God. And Shawn emotionally broke down because he was having such internal turmoil. Part of him wanted Triple H to do what he couldn't do so he could feel like he was a part of finally getting that win over The Undertaker. And another part of him didn't want Triple H to do what he couldn't do because it almost felt better to him that he failed doing something that was impossible than being the one guy that couldn't do it when there was someone else better than him that could have. That's ego for you. The Undertaker's body was collapsing, but in the end, he powered through and he redeemed himself. He hit the tombstone on Triple H, pinned him 1, 2, 3, and he was able to vanquish Triple H on his own 2 feet. And in the end, instead of Undertaker being carried out, Triple H was helped carry up the ramp by The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. They walked up the ramp as a trio and they looked out onto the crowd, and it truly was the end of an era. In the end, Triple H became exactly what Shawn Michaels was, exactly what he judged Shawn Michaels for being. Obsession consumed both of them. But in the end, the streak came out on top, 20-0. And nobody beat the streak. But in trying to conquer it, Shawn Michaels lost his career, Triple H lost his pride, and DX was never the same again. And we're not counting Saudi Arabia, where DX beat the Brothers of Destruction.
That's what I'm
saying.
saying.
It's not canon. Shut up. And the reason these 4 matches
That was like the most
still
cursed
matter
match
to
ever,
this day
too.
is not just because they're classics. It's because WWE accidentally told one of the greatest long-term stories in WWE history. A story about obsession, about ego, about legacy, brotherhood, mortality. In the end, the streak didn't just defeat DX, it consumed them.
Wow. Couldn't have said it better myself. Could not have said it better myself. Y'all, go subscribe to 20 Minute Promo. Go subscribe. This man... Well, I thought I was already subscribed. The hell? I could have sworn I subscribed to his channel when I did the CM Punk video. That's weird. But yeah, please go subscribe to 20 Minute Promo. This was an amazing video. The synopsis of, you know, the story of DX and The Undertaker, and it just... It's... Oh, man. It's... He put it all out there. He said it all out there. I literally cannot add anything to it. It's just that damn good. Which is also a Triple H reference. If you know, you know. But anyways, that's all the time I have for this video. Thank you all so much for watching and tuning in. Thank you all for being here, you know, in this time when, you know, I've been very unsure about a lot of things in regards to the channel and to, you know, just everything. I've been just thinking all the time. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Goodbye, everybody. God bless you. Stay safe, and take it easy.